Hello, everybody. This is Leah with another Never Lost podcast episode with Moshe. Hi, Moshe.
Hey,
Hey, so lovely to see you and have you here. I've seen you in the community and we've crossed paths a few times and became Facebook friends, and I follow your posts, and it feels like we're very aligned in our thought processes. And so I thought, what better than to have you here and chit chat, as you just put it a minute ago before I hit the record button, about nothing.
yeah, that's funny.
So I wanted to get to know you a little bit better, and I thought maybe we could start off by getting into your story and how you came upon these thought processes and this non-dual message.
Um, I don't know, man. I've always been a seeker, like
Yeah.
ever since I can remember, even childhood. My mom was Christian, my dad was Jewish, so I was raised
Oh,
in so I was raised Jewish though. My dad decided to raise me Jewish, and my mom would raise my brother and sister Christian. So it was kind
no
of like we had,
way.
so we had this Christmas type thing, and yeah, so I always wondered, like, who's right? What's going on here? My mom saying Jesus is, God. And my dad's like, nah.
Oh my gosh, that's wild. How did they get
Yeah.
along?
They got along, but they ended up getting a divorce, not because
Yeah,
of the religion.
right.
They just
Yeah.
agreed to let just if you want to stay in that religion. My mom was going to convert, but
Oh, yeah.
yeah, she decided at the last minute not to.
Okay.
So it just stayed that way for a while.
And did you go to like Hebrew school and do the whole shebang
Oh
there?
yeah, yeah. And I was
Yeah.
back and forth going to Israel and LA.
Oh,
Yep. So I was,
okay.
yeah, I knew Hebrew from the time I was a little kid. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, I was back and forth. And then when my dad passed away when I was 12, I was in LA, and I ended up going to Israel. They ended up taking me to Israel. My uncle did. And
Mm.
yeah, they put me in a religious school because I was a bad kid. So
Oh, were you really?
I was like, I was a typical LA kid,
Uh,
smoking weed when I was like 9, 10 years old.
oh my
Um,
gosh, so
yeah,
young. Wild
yeah, I was
child.
wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they put me in a religious school, and that lasted for about a year.
Okay.
And then I just started doing my own thing. I was wild. I was a wild kid.
Hmm.
I guess a lot of it was because, I just didn't want to be in Israel. And
Oh, interesting. Okay.
yeah, I didn't want to be there. Um, because I had to leave all my friends in LA when I was, almost 13. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I wasn't happy. I wasn't really happy about it. And I was just bitter
Sure.
about my dad passing away, I guess.
Oh.
And I was an angry kid. So I rebelled big time.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, I did some crazy shit over there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And were you seeking for answers from a young age, like things didn't add up to you from being a child?
yeah. So
Yeah.
I always had that, like
Yeah.
I completely rebelled against religion altogether by the time I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, when I was, especially being in a religious school when they put me in that. I mean, you're
Yeah.
talking about, I was already a wild kid, so it was a, it was a, it was like a culture shock, It was like, and I rebelled against it, and
They were trying to tame the beast.
they were,
Yeah.
and yeah, so yeah, the seeking happened. I mean, it really started like I just didn't think about anything till I was like maybe 18, and that's when I
Okay.
came back uh, to the United States when I was 17, and yeah, I just I mean, my mom's library, my mom was always into like enlightenment, and
Oh,
like I took books out of her library and I started reading books out of her library, and that's when
yeah,
it started. And then I went to a community college in Texas, in Dallas,
yeah.
and I was like doing music, and I met a guy um who was a Buddhist, and
Mhm.
he was saying stuff like there is no God and all this kind of stuff, and I was like, what are you talking about, man? And so I started going to these Buddhist meetings, and they were like Nichiren
Oh,
Daishonin. I don't know if you're familiar with
it
that.
was what?
Nami Nichiren Daishonin, like the
No.
Namio Horenge Kyo,
Oh, I
where
don't know
they,
that one. No.
it's kind of like law of attraction Buddhism, you know?
Really?
Yeah,
I've
where
never heard of this.
yeah. So
Wow.
I mean,
Okay.
and we were dropping a lot of acid and going to these meetings, and
Oh, that's a riot.
yeah, it was cool. So that's when things started opening up, I would say,
Yeah.
and then there was like seeking. I would say at that time there was no seeking. There was just like being, and absorbing new information. And then
Hmm.
it went on for years, where I started after that. I started to there were periods where I was like deep into it, like reading books
Hmm.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So and then I would go away from that, and then I would come
Hmm.
back to it. And then I would say when the in 2012, somewhere around there, it was like I was like, all right, what is this that I've been going back and forth with? What
Yeah.
is this? And then I came across Non Duality or Advaita Vedanta,
Hmm.
and even though I dabbled in that like years before, 10 years before, and
Hmm.
yeah, so that's what started opening everything, and it was really Jed McKenna. So once I came
Oh,
across Jed McKenna, that started
yeah.
breaking everything open.
Huh.
Yeah, and
So then you came across him, and so I'm not so familiar with him. I know I've listened to some podcasts of Terrence McKenna, and I thought he was a brilliant mind. Is Judd speaking similarly?
now Jed speaks. Yeah, it's mainly about enlightenment.
Uh-huh.
So it's different than what Terrence talks about.
Is his
Even though
shtick
I
plant
love Terrence.
medicine too? Yeah. Is
No,
Judd in the
no,
plant? No. Okay.
no.
Okay.
He just
Yeah.
kind of breaks. He just kind of shits on everything. So that's what that's what cracked everything open for me. And then
Yeah.
I started to, he was talking about Nisargadatta and Ramana, and
Oh,
so
okay.
I
Yeah.
started to look into
You
where
went
he's at.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Yeah.
and that was, yeah, that was it. It was um
Yeah.
yeah, I locked myself in my apartment for months and just watched
Really.
videos all day, and yeah, I was like
Heavy seeking
obsessed.
energy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was heavy seeking energy. You're right. I was like
Yeah.
pacing around, just like I always said, if there were cameras around in my apartment and somebody saw me, they would say, "That's a crazy person."
Like, what the hell? He's out of his
Just
mind. What is this
pacing
guy
and
doing
then sitting
pacing
down
back and
watching
forth,
videos. Yeah,
trying to figure, yeah.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
it was like Armageddon in my head, and yeah, and then it just stopped. It just
Uh,
came to a halt, and that was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That's
No
the
more
best way I can
questions, no more
describe it.
seeking. It
Yeah,
just stopped flat.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was
Yeah.
like a checkmate. It was like, you know, there's no way to know anything, and that was clear.
Yeah. Big, it can feel like you're on a hamster wheel, right? With the seeking, it's like, oh, must learn this, must, oh, what are they saying? What is this?
Yeah,
Siddhartha said this, but like, wait, let me compare it to what Ramana said. And it's always like,
Yeah, and even after the seeking stopped,
yeah,
there was a lot. I was still watching videos a lot, and it was like, how do I express this? How do you talk about this?
yeah,
And that's why,
yeah,
I was watching the videos for a long time until I
yeah.
realized watching the videos ain't doing shit anyway. So it's like, it's
Like,
like life
damn,
is
what am I
showing me.
doing with my life? Shit.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that too. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. And so then, like with the non-duality, did you come across a Tony Parsons or
yeah.
Parsonian message? You did. Yeah,
I did, I did,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
loved it. I loved it.
yeah,
It's amazing. It really is. But at a certain point, it's like, okay, it's like, you know, I don't
yeah.
need to watch this anymore. I don't need to talk about it this way anymore. I think Tony
Right.
Parsons and those guys, they're just like, they put you in this where you can't, you know what I mean?
Right.
They don't give you
No
room
wiggle
to,
room for the
yeah, there's
me.
no
Yeah.
wiggle room. And
Yeah.
it serves its purpose, you
I
know,
agree.
and
Yeah.
that's about it. But it's not, yeah, it's over the years, because once it's recognized that everything is okay and it's all inclusive anyway, you can venture
Yeah.
out and do whatever the fuck you want,
That's
or whatever's
it.
happening.
That's it.
When I say I do, or I think, it's just what's happening. I
Yes.
just
So Moshe, like I interviewed someone recently and I ended up taking it down because this person was correcting my words. And I'm like, we don't need to speak in specific terminology. When this is
no,
seen, it's normal, regular life. There's no like speaking like it's just this and and you can't say this and you can't say because I think it's almost like missing the point. It's boxing yourself in to speak a specific way when this is so free, flowy, and um it puts a condition on the unconditionality.
right, yep, yeah,
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 and I mean, yeah, it's funny. It gets funny. It gets hilarious. It's like how people get so dogmatic about it.
yeah.
It's like turned into another religion.
It really feels that way because
Hmm.
if you don't follow the specific guidelines of speaking, it's almost like you're out of the club, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And
But
I always consider, like, I was always the blasphemer of
were
non-duality.
you?
Yeah, because
Really?
I was like, why are you guys getting stuck? It's like,
Yeah.
and it's just what is. You could say it's just what is, but yeah, everything is what is. So what the fuck? Who
Everything
cares?
is what is, and yeah, it shows up in any which way, but it's just being contracted in that sense is just very, like you said, dogmatic and creates another religion. But in
Hmm.
the same token, I do really do love the straight on pointings. But the people who are doing the Parsonian method, it can be a little trickery for the seeker because they're not living their life like that.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
So it's
If you got the
saying this, but then you're going through a regular life with all your
hmm
ups and downs and shit and bad days. It's not a special like way of being or okay, it's just
it has
this and
nothing
then
to do with
everything's
you.
hunky dory.
Yeah,
Hmm?
it has nothing to do with you, actually.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I mean, the recognition, the realization has absolutely nothing to do with you. And
right. Yes.
it can seem like it brings an ease to the character, but it
Hmm.
has nothing to do with you. It's just, it's not going to, it's not going to fix anything. I mean, if you're a
Yeah.
dick, you're still going to be a dick. If
Yes.
you're, you know, it just doesn't change anything. Um, and that's
Yeah.
why, you know, I believe that, yeah, it is, whatever's happening is happening. But if you need, you know, if you need help in a certain department, like if you need some psychiatric help, then it's go get it, you know.
That's
It
it. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Because life is still tough for
Yeah.
everyone. We're all here trying to survive. And so it's like, if you need therapy, you need help, like, don't say, oh, that's not a part of non-duality. I can't take care of myself. Taking care of yourself is it too.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, because
you know,
you're still there's still the experience, even though it's recognized that, you know, there's no you.
yeah.
You know, which sounds funny when you say it. It's like it's
It
all you.
does.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all you in a sense. Your whole
Mhm.
interpretation is happening through what we call you. You know, um,
Mhm.
yeah, and that non-dual recognition has nothing to do with you. So that's the paradox, and um, that's where you can't hang up on one side or the other. It's like, you know, it's all one
Yeah.
thing until we talk about it. Then it seems like it's two separate things. You know, it seems like the human experience, your life experience, and then
Mhm.
that there is no there is no life experience, and both of those things
Yes.
coexist. And sometimes um, you're more in the personal. You're living life. You know what I mean? Life is
Mhm.
being lived, and you're not paying attention to, oh, this is nothing, or it's just this.
Yeah.
For a long time,
Yeah.
I was those concepts were like circling in my brain like
Yeah.
constantly. And
Yes.
to me, that's another form of um, yeah, that's not liberation.
Mhm.
That's just
Yes.
another, you
It
know what I
turns
mean?
into another, like, teaching or a coping mechanism in a way to keep on, like, going through life and backtracking in your mind, like, almost
I
like,
know.
it's just this. Okay, it's gonna be okay. It's just this." And that
Hmm.
becomes your next mantra of yeah, it is like a coping mechanism, I would say.
Well,
Um,
there's a resting in it. You know,
yeah,
there's a resting when you zoom out. You know,
yeah,
um, but that's not the only thing. What I see is like at first it was this, and then it
yeah,
was this, and now it's this. So,
yeah.
yeah, and it only seems like, yeah, only when we talk about it, that's when we fuck the whole thing up. Really, it's like, you know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah,
even the most amazing books that I've read. I mean, they're just descriptions of that particular character, of how it
yes.
sees this.
Yeah, and,
And,
like, it's funny, like, people, like, will worship a Buddha, but the thing is, the Buddha's expression was unique to him. You can't be the Buddha. That's not part of your storyline. You are you.
right,
So, in a sense, like, embrace that self because that's everything being a you. But everybody is like, it seems like, be like Jesus, be like the Buddha. Like, how the hell am I going to do that? That's not this expression here, you know?
right, right.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
can still see that, you know, like when I read Buddha or I read Christ, Jesus, right?
Hmm.
You can see that they stumbled upon it's there. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
there. Um, yeah. So, uh, yeah, it's hard to
It's just
talk about.
every storyline is so unique, you know,
Hmm.
to the character and everything happening around it. And it's just all rising in that storyline, everything simultaneous. So it's like, that's such a unique expression there. I mean, maybe there's qualities that can mimic, or maybe we can adapt things like having more compassion, which is beautiful. But to say that you need to be specifically like that, I think it's taking away from your character expression.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just like everything. Life
Yeah.
shows you. You know, if you're a
Yeah.
dick, then people aren't gonna. They're not gonna want to hang around you, and you're gonna feel shitty. You're not gonna feel. There's no lightness about being obsessed or caught up with shit. You know what I mean? Even if it's
Yeah.
non-duality, even if it's, you know, you're caught up in the way, like you said, the way you talk about it. Oh, that's so. It's like I used to say, like it's all this until you're this doesn't align with their this.
Yeah.
Then it's not just this. Then it's you know what I mean? It
This and
gets kind
that.
of, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I mean like they all, like you hear people and they just say it's just this, and then you say
Uh-huh.
something and they're like, no, it's not that, and you're like, well, it's
Right.
all just this, right? So it's
Exactly.
like, yeah,
Exactly. So like, why are we arguing about this? Because it's all this. So there's really nothing to
dude, I can't
grasp
argue with
onto.
you. Can't argue with anyone. You can't argue with
No.
somebody who's a full on, um, you know, Christian, or you know, whatever their religion is, and they believe what they believe. It's just an expression happening, and
Yes.
there's no truth to your truth versus their truth. It's just what's happening. It's just
That's
what's
it.
appearing.
Yeah.
But we get caught
Yeah.
up. No, 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 no. You're seeing it
Yeah.
this way. You're seeing it that way. There's no one there to see. God damn, just chill the fuck out.
But I love it. Maybe that's that relaxation part of, not needing to change somebody because in this society of conditionality, everybody's like, you need to be more like this. You need to do your hair like this. You need to do your makeup like this. You dress like this, look like this. You can be a better you if you do the self-help course. It's always inundated everywhere. And just the fact that you could relax and kind of laugh about it a little bit and be like, well, that's all this. So,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, even self improvement is just this.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Like what self is there to actually improve? But yet, it happens and I'm not hating on it because I'd rather
look,
somebody who's
you can
worked
have
on
a full
themselves than not.
you can have a
Huh?
full blown awakening. That's it's like I used to say, you know, there are cuts, there are deep cuts, and then there's beheaded. It's like you could still get triggered. It doesn't matter. The conditioning is there, but
Hmm.
eventually, you know, you see that the conditioning is just a conditioning, and that
Yeah.
it's evolving. It doesn't stay the same. You
Yes.
know, and now we're dream talking, but that's all we can do. You know, this is what I always say. It's
That's
like
all we
this,
got.
yeah, it's
Thank
all we
you.
got.
That's all we got is our dream talk, and we can just ponder this and point to it. It's never the truth of it, but
We can only talk about what it seems like to us, and that's apparent,
yeah,
and that's apparently. So, but
yeah,
that's what it appears like, is that we're just talking
yeah,
about what it seems like to us.
yeah. And then that gets into the space of one could never actually know another because your experience is so unique to you. And like, I could be looking at my screen here and seeing blue water, and to you, it could be teal. Or,
Right.
we can't verify another's experience other than vocalization and trying to make sense of it. But even the feelings and thoughts that you have over there are so completely different than what I'm thinking and feeling in that conversation that it's like we're apples and oranges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even it doesn't matter. It's like whatever, even my own thoughts are not believed. You know what I mean? It's like there's
Yeah.
there's
You're calling BS on your own thoughts,
yeah,
Moshe.
yeah. It's like, yeah, even if we agree on things, it's still BS. It's still, I mean, it's all hypothesis, right? We all start
Yeah.
with you need that great miracle to start anywhere. You know what I mean? Even Big Bang, all of it, it's like you need that miracle first. Whatever it
Mhm.
is, because there are these non-dualists, right, that are materialists that believe that there is a material world and then there's an overlay. I don't see it that way. I see it as it's all the overlay even is
Is it?
is it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's we only separate it in words. And
Yes. Yeah.
when we start talking
It's
about it and thinking about it, then we have ideas about it. And Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you look at a tree and you can express it in so many different ways. There's so many different ways of just looking at a tree,
Hmm.
and different conclusions people can come up with, and everybody will see it completely differently. So it's like it's so
Yeah.
vast and expansive, the everything nature of it. It's mind-blowing. It's
Yeah.
every angle. Every angle is it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and every angle is not it too. It's like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, yeah.
Have you had any
So
like oh shit moments like damn when it just yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like the conditioning of the apparent you. It's a constant, um it's a constant flux. It's always evolving and changing, and yet at the same time,
Yes. Hmm.
it's not even happening. It's not. It never happened, and that's where you know you come to terms with the paradox. You just it's only a
Yeah.
paradox in words, by the way. It's not really a
Right.
paradox. It's only a paradox when we start talking about it, because
Yes.
there is no there's no way to define. There's no way to say anything about this. I
Yeah.
don't know what this is, really. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like what I know about it, what I think I know about it is exactly that. It's just what I think I know about it. Um,
Yeah. And where do your thoughts even come from, right? It's like there's no boundary or edge to a thought. So how could we even categorize a thought into a knowing?
right. Yeah. I mean, I used to say like, you know, we that's the you that you believe yourself to be is a thought to begin with.
Hmm.
So it's like thoughts thinking thoughts.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
but really the way I see it now is there's a movement, there's a desire that rises up and it creates thoughts.
Hmm.
But now we're getting into crazy shit. These are all my hypothesis, and I have
But
a
I like it. No, I
yeah.
really like it because it's so interesting to ponder, even though we can't know the truth of it. It's,
Hmm.
the truth might be sprinkled in there and we just can't,
Well,
conceive of
yeah,
it.
yeah. So ultimately, I would say there is no truth. There's
Hmm.
there's there's no way to tell.
Yeah.
If there is a truth,
Yeah.
you'll never know.
You'll never know.
Uh-uh. Um,
Yeah.
it seems like it seems like we can uh, we can dance around it. We can dance around it, but
Yeah.
you can't land anywhere. We're never going to land anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, it's a flow. It's a flow that happens, and sometimes I'm interested in this, sometimes I'm interested in that, but
Yeah.
ultimately I'm not. It's not like the seeking, in our groups that we talk about is like the intense seeking. I have to know. I have to know,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
that's the desire that gets that movement started. But
Yeah. Yeah.
what you realize is yeah, you'll never know, but that doesn't mean that the curiosity that this is, um you're never going to stop being curious.
Hmm.
There's always, to me, I mean, unless you're like retired and you're 80 years old and you're just sitting around listening to the birds, in your backyard or something like that, which is, it's just not, that's I've went through that, like after the
Yeah.
awakening,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it was a complete, there was nothing there. So there was sitting around just looking at the walls and, looking at the ceiling,
Yeah.
um and there was no thoughts coming up. There were no thoughts about this or that were coming up.
Yeah.
And then eventually, um thoughts come up, and you even get this even after that is like you can have I remember there was a time where I thought, oh shit, I lost it now. I had this, but I
Yes, that
lost
meaning and being. Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah. That's awful.
yeah.
It feels like you lost your best friend. It's just like, oh,
Well, yeah,
yeah.
it's like you feel that contraction again, and
Hmm.
that thought is what made that contraction arise, is I lost it. Now I got to find it again. Um,
Hmm. Yes.
yeah,
Like, where is it? What happened to it?
yeah.
No, I'm doomed. Yeah.
So now there isn't that anymore. There's, whatever, even if there's a contraction, I'm okay with a contraction. I'm okay with
Yeah.
whatever arises is just,
That's it.
it's this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
wild, untamable, it's yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
well, there's no one to control it. So
That
and when you
yes.
get in these
Yeah.
groups, it seems like, or when you first get into this non-duality, it seems like, well, there's no one. You feel there's the mind still makes it seem like there's someone that can control that. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Like I can control if there's a, a contraction or um,
Mhm.
and it's not feeling just wide open. Um, but there isn't. It's just yeah. It, it's
Yeah.
the okayness doesn't evolve. The okayness with everything that doesn't change. Um, but the way I talk about it, maybe the way I and I've seen this with a lot of teachers too. It's like take like Lisa Cairns for example. She doesn't.
Yeah.
If you watch her now versus or Jeff Foster, dude,
Yeah.
he was hardcore non-dual when I first came across him, and
Really.
he nothing like that anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like life leads you, it just continues to grow. Even though that's a story, but still it feels like a progression in a storyline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the yeah, there's a loosening up. So you wake up from your awakening. you know, uh, yeah,
Did you
because you
ever
can
have
get.
a moment, Moshe, where you were like, oh my God, I discovered something I've got to tell everybody?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was calling everyone. It was like
Were you?
friend that was going through a divorce, and like her husband was an alcoholic, and they were going through so many problems. I was just like, hey, look, it's perfect the way it
Oh
is.
no. And
you
she's
get
like,
this.
you mother ever what?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But it was so innocent and honest that
Yeah.
they didn't react to it that way. Um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
um, because they probably thought I was going crazy. You know what I mean? Like you're losing your mind. And
Yeah.
that's what actually happens. you lose your mind.
Yeah.
Not in the sense of you're going crazy. It appears that way, but you lose the mind as if there's no holding on to the mind. Um,
Hmm.
because that's what creates the duality, anyways.
Hmm.
And what is non-duality? It's like, what is it? Everyone's like
Hmm.
non-duality, non-duality. What the fuck is
Yeah.
non-duality? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
two. Okay, it's not two in reference to two. You know what I mean? So it's
Hmm.
like it's dual in its nature any goddamn ways. It's like you're gonna say non-duality, the opposite. It's just the opposite of duality. So it's
Hmm.
dual.
Yes. Yes. Yay.
But what it's pointing to is not is neither.
Yeah.
It's neither and both, you could say.
Hmm.
It's both and neither. Um
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, really, like you said that beautifully, because what is non-duality? It's to me, it's the closest word to get to the closest pointing, but still, it doesn't land on it. And so even
Nothing will.
non-duality gets decimated,
Hmm.
there's no platform to land on.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's nothing to land on.
Yeah.
I
But
mean, there
it
was
can
a
be
period.
challenging speaking about something you can't talk about, and yet
It
so much
is.
fun and just enjoyable to point at what is. There's something magnetic about it that just it keeps drawing this character back in. It's like it's so beautiful, even hearing the message in everything, in a bird chirp, in the wind. It's everything, so it's not just even speaking these words and pointing to it, everything is pointing to it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, life has a way of showing you whether um it shows you, you know, Yuji once said, if you knew how to look at a leaf, you know, everything is there.
Yeah.
And it's constantly pointing to that. It constantly
Yeah.
seems like it's pointing to that. Um
Yeah.
yeah, and there's a
Yeah.
paying attention. I just like I'll go on groups just because I've been around those groups for a long ass time. Um
Yeah.
yeah, so uh, I mean, yeah, I just like talking shit.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. It seems like a lot of groups are popping up, new speakers. It feels like it's kind of growing in popularity, which is
yeah,
interesting to see.
it's
Yeah.
become popular. It's become, just like DMT. It's like when I was doing
Yeah.
DMT, um,
Yeah.
when I first came across it, nobody knew what the fuck that was. I mean,
Yeah.
even my hardcore drug user friends were like, "What the fuck is that?" You know,
Yeah.
um, even the ones that were into psychedelics, and then
Yeah.
I
It was the
mean,
same with me, Moshe, because I started serving toad medicine, Bufo, the 5-MeO, like years before it got popular, where there was like nobody to really reach out and be like, what do I do here? Thank goodness I found a man, Martin Ball, out of Oakland,
I
no,
know who he is.
Ashland, California. Yeah. And he was so good to me. And he was like, okay, this is what it is. Buy my book. Let's chat, and he was so, so supportive. But like it was unknown, uncharted territory at the time. And now it's
Yeah, that,
everywhere.
I always say like there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of speakers and people that come on groups and they write about this and they,
Hmm.
dude, you can know this intellectually and still not have this um experience, non-experience. um
Yeah.
I always said, like, if you serve them some bufo or you some 5-meo, I could
Hmm.
tell when they come out, if it was, you know what I mean, because that's like the
Yeah.
ultimate test. It's going to shoot you straight into that. It's
Yeah.
gonna shoot you till you're devoured. um
Yes.
and
Yes.
there's nothing you can do. There's It's going to wipe every idea that you have about anything
Yes.
within 5 seconds.
Yes.
And there's nothing, and there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
um, so if you want to, I used to say, like, if you want to chit chat about non-duality, sit and fucking smoke some 5-meo, and then we can have a chit chat about this. You know what I mean? um
I love it.
Yeah, and same with
Yeah.
NNDMT. I think NNDMT is just, like, I would say 5-MeO is the nothing. It just fucking wipes everything like you've never
Wipes it
existed.
white out.
Um,
Yeah.
where NNDMT is like everything. It's like,
Hmm.
you know, uh,
Yeah.
and it's everything, including the ideas you have about yourself. So
Hmm.
it'll go into that. Um,
Yeah.
it'll show you blind spots that you never thought you had. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's priceless just to bring into awareness some of these repetitive behaviors or patternings or things so
Hmm.
deeply embedded within the body.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it pulls you out of this wholeness, however the fuck you want to say it. It can pull you out of that. When you get triggered, you're in
Mhm.
selfhood again. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and it's, to me, it's like always, it's like a, like, yeah, you're always either this or this, or, and it's just doing it on
Yeah.
its own.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, people want to say, yeah, I'm this all the time, and it's like bullshit.
Okay, thank you. Yes. So,
Yeah,
like, I've interviewed some people who are really big into psychedelics, and they're like, I'm going to maintain this
yeah,
level. And that becomes
um,
another dangling carrot of,
yeah.
okay, I'm going to grasp onto an experience, and be in this loving state all the time. I'm going to be the light and love of the 5D. I'm going to embrace it, and I'm
Fuck,
like,
if you figure it
how the
out, dude,
hell are you
show
gonna?
me. Yeah, if you figure that
Yeah,
out,
yeah.
first of all, I want, who the fuck wants that all the time, dude? I want to be confused sometimes. I want to
Yeah,
dance with confusion sometimes. I want to, you
right.
know, yeah. It's like there's no need for it to be anything anymore. Like any way.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes, it doesn't need to be a specific way. And also, I find when people are holding on to it needs to be a specific way, it's also like a projection to another, like you are not good enough unless you are this specific way. Everybody needs to be this way. It's almost another box in a sense.
It can be a useful tool for the character.
Yeah,
It's just like getting therapy or something. It's like, um,
yeah.
yeah, and none of
The
us
thorn
are.
to remove a thorn, they say, like a thorn to
Yeah,
remove a thorn kind of tool. Yeah.
yeah, but then you throw away you throw away both thorns in the end.
Yeah.
That's with awakening, enlightenment. Um,
Yeah.
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 So yeah, all these sound bites and do this and that. And it's all wholeness, or it's all love. It's all. I think it is all love in the end, but not love in the way we think it is. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's all love in the sense of it's all okay. It's all good.
It's
And that's
all
not even,
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
even if it's
Yeah.
shitty. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Even if it doesn't feel it in the moment, it's
Even if
still
I'm
okay.
angry, even if I'm, yeah,
Yeah.
even if I get triggered, it's all okay.
Yeah.
But now if yeah, I mean, so that's where it's hard to talk about, because
Yeah.
if you are getting triggered all the time, then then there's a strong sense of self there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
and that's fine too if that's cool
And
with
that's
you.
okay
You know what
too.
I mean?
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing to push away there, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it's funny, I was doing an interview with someone and it seemed like they wanted to go into that light and love space. Everything is light and love. And I said, but this is also like, this is heavy metal. Like, this is badassery. Like, it's war and killing and devouring oneself and being birthed in tremendous pain and then suffering and then devouring. I mean, it's just, it's
That's the both and,
unfathomable.
right? It's
What?
the both and. It's the both
Yeah,
and.
it's the
Um,
both and.
it's the yin yang and the circle. It's like, and non-circle. It's all,
Yeah.
okay. But when we're talking about um our story, because that's all we can really talk about, even if we're talking about uh there's no story. So that's just a story of you having a non-story.
That's it. You
Um
can't escape it. You can't. There's no getting
no.
out of a story. And you can
Mm-mm.
trade one for the next quite easily, as we do. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just happens. It happens to happen as it happens. um, yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
and yeah, there's two different schools of non-duality too. There's, the
Hmm.
physicalists, which are like, yeah, this is the brain. It's all the brain doing. It's all the projection of the brain,
Yeah.
and I can't
Yes.
argue with that. I can't
Yeah.
argue with that.
Yeah.
In the sense of everything that I say and everything that I do, it seems to be the brain. I could go with that, but to lock it in is, it's definitely this physical aspect that's
Yeah.
causing all this. That's where I'm like, oh, okay, you lost me now. Yeah.
Right. I can understand where that thought process would come from, but what's making the heart pump? What's making the stomach churn?
Hmm.
What's producing these thoughts in the brain? To
And
me,
information, like everybody thinks that all information is stored in the brain. Well, we know that's
yeah,
not true anymore. We already know.
yeah,
You have a heart
yeah,
transplant, and then all of a sudden you have cravings of peanut butter that you never had before. And you're
yeah,
also seeing
yeah,
visuals in your head of a person that you've never met, and you're feeling
yes,
their feelings. And it's like, how the fuck does that? It has nothing to do with the brain.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
So I do Chinese medicine, and in Chinese medicine, it's said that each organ carries a specific emotion.
mhm. Yeah,
And and so like the gut carries a gut feeling. And when like the digestive enzymes are off and the probiotics are off, then someone can go into depression. And that's all coming from the gut, not the brain.
yeah.
So
So I mean, like I said earlier, it's all dream talk. What we're
yeah,
talking about,
yeah, yeah,
and it's fine. It's perfectly fine. And I go into those things. I love um, looking into those
yeah,
type of things.
yeah,
Um, and I'm not trying to find anything, or I'm not trying to find an end result. There's no I don't care the outcome. Like if I find out it's true or not true, it doesn't matter to me. It's just fun
yeah.
exploring. It's not seeking anymore,
Ah,
it's exploring. You know what I mean?
exploring. Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's what it seems like this is, uh this whole apparent existence, is just
yes.
exploring. Yeah.
An exploration with curiosity.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if we're exploring the idea of non-duality,
Hmm.
it's still exploring. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it never stops. But why limit yourself to just, you know, uh,
Thank you.
yeah,
Yes.
a long
Yes.
time ago, I remember hearing, what was his name? Uh, that one yogi that the Beatles went to. Um,
Neem Karoli Baba.
no, not even Curly Baba,
Oh.
but he's cool too. I like it when Ram Dass gave him a bunch of acid and he ate it. Nothing happened. I always said if you gave him DMT, it wouldn't be the same story. But who knows?
Oh,
Who knows? I don't know. But
I love it.
no, it was
Yeah.
what the fuck's his name, man? The Beatles guy, the TM guy.
I'm not sure.
I can't remember the name right now. But anyways,
Yeah.
he said once, and it kind of stuck with me. I mean, I heard things in before the awakening that kind of came back, and they were like, "Wait a minute, you're getting stuck in a loop,
Yes.
with your ideas, and you're locked into a certain, um, it becomes a belief, like a belief system." But he said something like, someone came to him with like non-dual, like, yeah, there's nothing, it's nothing, and he was like, yeah, so you opened one room and you went in there and you sat in there, but you have 20 more keys. Why are you just sitting in that room? And that's what that kind of sat with me, and that's how I see it now. It's like, um and I mean, it's all dream talk, because ultimately it happens as it's going to happen. So everyone's going to experience what they experience, and talk about it the way they talk about it. Like someone who hasn't
Exactly.
experienced DMT, it's like, and they've had a, a non-dual awakening or realization, however you want to call it. um they're never going to know what you're talking about. it's just going to seem like they only know the physical, and the physical is the only thing that's real in a sense.
Right.
They've
Yeah.
never seen
Yeah.
it fall apart.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they've never seen it just
Definitely.
crumble. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so in that sense, it's like you can I always used to say you can only see as far as you can see because you're locked into what your
Yes.
conditioning is.
Yes.
Mm,
That's so beautiful, Moshe. It's so true. You
yeah.
can't see past what's popping up, what your awareness seems to present. But it seems like with the openness, it's more expansive. It's not limited to that specific perception.
Well, it's all inclusive in a way, right?
Mhm.
It's like
Yeah,
there's nothing that's not it,
that's right. Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
So it's all if it's all an illusion, then you can still study how a mirage appears. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Even though it
Yeah,
doesn't matter because it's all a mirage anyways.
yeah.
Um, but
But
yeah.
it's the realist feeling mirage that we have, and it's everything being this. So even like observing nature and studying things is the observation of everything, not for me, but just observing happening. And it's incredible that we have this almost sense of awareness that we can observe things and speak and make sense of the languaging and be this illusionary whatever speaking to each other. I mean, it's just the impossible appearing as something possible. It's incredible, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could go so many different ways with this, and that's
Yeah,
and there's an openness to let it go wherever it wants to go, and that's how my
yeah,
experience is. It's not
yeah.
locked in. It's not locked in.
Not
There's
locked into non-duality or one specific way of being. It's
many. Yeah.
groundless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, it goes back to
mwah.
what is non-duality. It goes back to what is non-duality, man. You're just it's just like, you can't if we're gonna say, if we're gonna talk about non-duality to what it's really pointing to, you're not gonna
Mhm.
be able to say anything. You're not gonna there's nothing
No,
to be said about it because it's already everything.
it's already it.
So it's like, man, I'd
Yeah.
much rather talk about DMT experiences and you know and
Fun. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, talking this way, I mean, there's no difference between this and doing DMT or riding your bike or, it's all this in any which form or
mhm.
capacity. So it's like, well, do you like riding your bike? Do it. You're
Yeah,
free. You're free, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this realization does nothing for no one. It's like, you know,
Yeah,
and
because
then
at
I
the
can
end of the
argue
day,
that
it's still
too.
lifing. It's still moving through
Yeah.
the storylines.
But the
You
funny thing
can't.
is I can argue anything. I can argue anything. Even what
Yeah.
I just said, even what I
Yeah.
just said, it does nothing for no one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it also there's a sense of peace no matter what, you know, and that happens to the character. That's
Yeah.
not the sense of peace is happening to the peace that passeth understanding.
Yeah.
It's still the way it appears to the character.
Hmm.
So yeah, you can argue anything. You can
It's crazy. Yeah,
there's
that's a really good point because like my piece would be different than your piece. And how are we defining peace? And you could break that down with anything and deconstruct it.
well, when
So,
people say the peace that passes understanding,
yeah.
there I resonate with that. I know what that is. I know what they're
Yeah.
saying. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Um,
Right. Yeah.
but I don't know I yeah. So I know what they're
You do and you
referring
don't.
to, but
Yeah.
but ultimately I don't know what that is or how that is or what I don't. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
there's no way there's nowhere to land even though it may seem like I'm landing all over the place, um,
Yeah.
there's nothing held. So no belief is held tightly. I have
Yeah.
beliefs, yeah,
Yeah.
I do,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they're not held tightly. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
And that's that lovely openness. And I love conversing with people like that because you can just feel the difference from someone who's like watching your words and no, you didn't get that right. And someone who's like, well, yeah, that's a possibility. And this is a possibility. And we can explore this. And it's an openness for exploration. And I just love explorers, like with the DMT exploration or, like just exploring life.
Well,
Um,
that is goddamn, that is fucking, what the fuck is that, right? When you do DMT, you're like, what? It just tears everything away. Like you can't go
yeah.
in there with some non-dual belief either. It's not gonna
No.
matter. It's not gonna matter.
It's not, it's gonna blow everything out of the water. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah,
I don't know. Have you tried the ayahuasca?
yeah, oh yeah.
You
I've
did.
done ayahuasca many times,
Oh,
ceremonies
have
and by
you?
myself.
By
Yeah,
yourself. Holy
yeah, oh yeah.
crackers. Okay.
Or with friends.
Yeah.
I used to get a shaman used to ship it out to me, like bottles of it, and I used to just like sit around with friends. We'd go camping and do ayahuasca, and there's
Oh
some
my
weird
gosh.
experiences that happen,
Yeah.
that are unexplainable and that
Hmm.
seem um, they're out of this world.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're out of the
It's hard to
consensus
put into
reality.
words. It's so unworldly. Yeah.
Yeah, unless you've had that experience, you won't know what the fuck I'm talking about. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's like for most people, it's just like, um, yeah, it's just your brain is doing this or you're just doing that. And I can't tell you. Ultimately, I don't know, but it doesn't seem like it's has anything to do with my brain, um, because
Yeah.
it's
I
for me.
agree.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I'm seeing things that I can't see in this apparent
Yeah.
reality, and
Yeah.
that's worth
Yeah.
talking about. That's worth having conversations about for me. Um,
Yeah.
it's and then all the
Yeah.
studies they're doing with mapping out DMT realms now. It's like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
all. So what I realized also when I had this awakening is that it was all just more content for the mind, but I'm cool with it now. It's like, yeah, so what? At first, it was discard all of it, just like, dude, all my
Nutty, nutty
DMT
at all.
experiences. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was completely sober when I had this awakening.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was. Yeah, I lost my driver's license 3 times, so I had to. I lost my license. The last time was for 5 years, and after 5 years, I had
Oh,
to go through a bunch of shit to get my license back, like AA meetings and all
yeah.
kinds of crap, going to meetings, and I was like an outpatient basically, and I was getting drug tested like twice a week sometimes. Um,
Wow. Wow.
yeah, so I was completely sober. Not even I couldn't even smoke weed, and it was legal in California. I had my card at the time. It
Yeah.
was, you had to have your card, but
Yeah.
I couldn't even smoke weed, and I was like, what the fuck, this sucks. But but that's when I started, you know, diving deep into trying to figure out what this is all about, what is going on
Yeah.
here, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, when that happened, it was like, yeah, it's all just more information for the mind. It's just more
Hmm.
play.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
discarded it, right? Even I was going through I had a lot of weird um experiences, which were, considered mystical experiences. And
Hmm. Yeah.
and I just it was like, don't pay attention to those either. That was just the
Right.
school I was coming from. Um,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
it was like,
Yeah.
don't pay
Yeah.
attention, no matter how wonderful and beautiful they are. And I learned that also from Terrence. It's like when the DMT roams, he's like, don't give in to astonishment. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, even even the most astonishing and amazing thing is just like, it's just another more content for the mind. Uh,
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah. I mean, there's no landing point there either. All that is this. And I think a lot of people don't recognize that who are doing the psychedelics. It's like that becomes a new platform or paradigm of, oh, there's this reality to get to. There's
mhm.
something outside of this that when I take this, I'm reaching another peak in another reality. It's almost like I'm getting outside of it. Like there's something to reach,
Yeah,
and they don't
but you
realize
are
that
though.
that's it
In a way,
too.
you are. You know, in a way, you're getting you're seeing something that you could never experience in this reality. So it is just this, whether it's that
That's
too,
it. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And you're
But
never going to experience that the same way either. Every trip is different with new insight, new thoughts, new visual. It's always fresh and new. It's never repetitive. It's always this newness.
yeah, you don't know where you're going to land in the DMT
You
realm. I mean,
don't. You
well, I
can't.
used to. There were times where I had repeated, like going to the same place.
But it's always a little bit different. It's never the exact, like you were laying in a different position. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Or you scratched yourself in a different moment. Like it's always this showing up different. Yeah.
yeah. It's always this. Even the most
Yeah.
amazing, like being in Dharmakaya, is like
Mhm.
even that was just more content. It was just
Yeah.
it was recognized that it was more content, but that experience is a jewel in my mind. Uh, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, it's not the same as taking a shit. You know what I mean? It's just um, yeah. So in a sense, it is the same as taking a shit, but in another sense, it's not. It's
Totally different.
completely
Yeah.
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 It's yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's hard
Yeah.
to talk about. It's hard to talk about it because, you know,
Yeah. It
especially
almost
for
becomes
people.
like a fated dream too, right? Like you go into these realms and then you come back and one is almost impossible to verbalize and communicate. And then it starts to fade away and you just
Mhm.
have the memory of little pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, but that memory, I mean, I remember the third time, I think it was the third time I did DMT, um, which the first time I did it was amazing. Second time was scary as hell, dude. I was just like, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
And then I listened to Terrence talk about if it's too fast and if it's too strong, tell it to slow down or sing out loud. And
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
tell you to take 3 hits. I'm the kind of person that's like, fuck that, I'm gonna take 4 hits. You know,
Oh,
so
gosh. Oh my gosh. You're a warrior over there.
uh
Holy moly.
what I've always liked to push boundaries, it's like, let me
I
see
see that.
how much further I can go. It's like not
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
people have eaten 30 grams of mushrooms in one sitting. Um
What?
or
Wait, wait,
yeah, but
wait, wait, wait. I
I
can't
just
even
wanted to
fathom
see.
this.
Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah.
I
I've
once did
always been
10 and I thought that was pushing the boundary. I
10
can't
is
even
pretty strong,
imagine.
yeah.
Yeah, I
10,
can't
anything
imagine.
above 10 starts getting wacky. Um, yeah, it's
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
world. It's
Oh my
um,
gosh.
but when you
Yeah.
get in, yeah, when you get in above 20 and 25, and you get to 30, it's like you can't even explain it unless somebody's done it, then they know. Um,
Oh,
and there's no way that my mind is coming up with this stuff. There's no.
right. Yeah.
If it
Like
is,
how, yeah. Yeah.
then yeah, it just doesn't seem like it to me. I mean, I've popped out of my body, which ultimately now I see, right? Even popping out of your body, it's just what's appearing to happen, no matter
Yeah.
what's happening. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it's clear, and that's why I always say, like, they're like, yeah, you can't pop out of your body. Yeah. I'm like, bitch, sit down and smoke this, and tell me that you didn't pop out of your, you know. it's and really, I mean, it's just another experience. It's just another appearance appearing, but it happens every single time,
Yeah.
like clockwork. You know,
Yeah.
if you smoke enough, you're
Oh
gonna
yeah. It's
there.
going to happen. Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I forgot what I was talking about.
That's perfect.
It always turns to DMT when I used to go to Exploding Rainbows. There's Zoom meetings. It always turned to
Really?
DMT for me.
That's your,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
But it's
that's when I
so
was posting.
profound. It really changes and affects your life when you go there. And you're right. People who have an experience like a 5-MeO or a blast off from DMT can't fathom like this is more than words. This is just so profound, like that this can be like that. And it feels real. It feels so full on, like in these realms. It's incredible. So,
It feels more
yeah,
real than this,
it does.
and that's
I've
what's
said that
you
so
know.
many times. It really does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you get this deja vu. Like I've been here. I know this. I even
Yeah.
had like a deja vu where I knew I had a deja vu, and it was like a deja vu. Um, like I know I've been here before, and I know I've had this deja vu before. It was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Those are wild. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
an incredible substance, and what's freaky about it is your brain produces it. You know what I mean? It's in your body.
Hmm.
Um,
Yes. Have
you're
you had
already
a
carrying.
Kundalini? Did you have a Kundalini experience ever?
I did, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and that was on Changa, which was
Okay.
yeah. I had that where I actually went to like a hell realm, and then I popped into like a heaven realm, and in that
Mhm.
heaven realm, I was just like my whole spine was like, and
Yeah.
my ex girlfriend was there at the time, and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm way more than okay right now." It was yeah, it was you can't yeah, you can't explain even
Yeah.
you can't explain it.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a Kundalini completely sober, and it felt like a DMT trip. And I was seeing visuals and colors and shapes. And literally, it was funny, Moshe, because I was getting up to go to the bathroom, or no, I was getting up to go get a drink. And my hands were melting. And I'm like, am I going crazy? Am I dying? Like, I think I'm dying. And thank goodness I had so much experience with psychedelics that I just laid down and breathed and just went through it and let it pass. But it was like, holy hell, you can do this sober. Like we have these chemicals in our body, unreal.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's naturally in the body. So yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
a lot of the like Rick Strassman has a theory that a lot of the biblical stuff with those experiences were DMT experiences.
Oh, totally. I mean,
Hmm.
a burning bush? Come on.
Yeah, and that also points to the acacia bush, which is there's I mean it's all over the desert out there. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um yeah,
Or what was it? Soma in Indian culture?
yeah, yep,
It was Soma.
uh-huh.
They saw these different gods and deities and created a religion out of having Soma. I think, probably all religions. I mean, I can't say anything for certain, but it seems like there's some sort of emphasis on psychedelics.
The way I see it is like those are I call those the middle realms.
Hmm.
So it's like there's the surface level consensus reality, how we all see, the world, trees, cars, dogs,
Hmm.
people, and then there's when you ingest some of these psychedelics, especially DMT, you go into
Yeah.
like what I call middle realms, and I would call the core like the black hole. It's like you have no idea. It's like
Yeah.
uh, how this is happening, how
Yeah.
um, yeah, how this even appears to happen.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
yeah,
And it shows
So
you this isn't so solidified, you know, like you perceive a wall to be white, but you could be on psychedelics and see it as green or purple. It's just not so, every thought isn't so solidified.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have weird experience. I've had weird experiences. I'm in DMT. I can see through things
Hmm.
on small doses of DMT, um, without breaking through. Yeah. So, and
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I mean, I haven't really had a breakthrough, and I just don't. I know what's going to happen when I take that
Yeah.
third and fourth hit. So I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, I don't know if I want to get ripped apart right now. you know,
I don't know if I
um,
want to go there again.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
even after the the biggest awakening. I mean, there's always when you come, there's a coming back, and there's a building. You're building the self-referential is it builds itself up back again. I
Hmm.
mean, that's why we're having a conversation. Without it, you can't even have a conversation. You can't, you know
Right.
what I mean? So,
Yeah.
um, even though you don't attach to it, it
Uh-huh.
still happens. And when you smoke
Yeah.
DMT, it rips that apart again. Tears
Yeah.
that apart again.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and it
then you're
doesn't
like,
matter if you,
oh, now I remember this, and it feels realer than real. And then you're back into feeling solidified. Yeah. Yeah, I
well,
get
for me,
it.
uh, it shreds even the remembering. It's like, um, yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
how to explain it. It's like everything I thought or everything I think just gets
Yeah.
taken
It's
away.
beyond remembering.
The
Yeah.
floor, the floor drops from it. This is the floor. Just you're. There's nowhere to. There's nowhere to hold
Yeah.
on to. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
and you could say it's like that. It's like that here. And for
Mhm.
me, I mean, I've like DMT has showed me a lot about the way we experience, the way this is experienced. Um,
Mhm.
when you're in a shitty attitude, you're gonna shitty things start to appear. Um,
Mhm.
and when you're in that bliss open state, it
Mhm.
seems like just fucking petals are being rained down on you, like you know, um,
Yeah.
yeah,
But that's the thing, it's not sustainable for the human experience because you're going to experience the gambit of everything. And so
yeah,
even to land on, you know, because again, I see that within the psychedelic community of landing on that is an achievement to hold on to, but that's just another facet of this.
yeah. There's nothing to hold on to. I mean, and
Yeah.
that's the thing is like, um, you don't have a choice in the way it unfolds.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to unfold as it unfolds, and
Yeah.
I mean, we could go into that too, right? The unfolding is just, um, it's a condition. It's happening according to the conditioning, you know.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's not,
Beautifully said. Yeah.
yeah. So, and as the conditioning um, changes, refines,
Yeah.
then the experience is more. It opens up more and more and more and more. There's no end to the opening. It seems like.
No, it's bottomless, endless. It's always doing this
For
dance of opening and constricting and opening.
right, and the opening is, yeah. This is where it's hard to talk about because
Mhm.
what we're talking about has nothing. There's nothing to open. There's nothing. But yet, for the experience of being human, of the human experience, there's opening, and it's more and
Yeah.
more and more and more.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
even love, right? Even love. It seems like, um,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, and it also goes in waves. I mean, sometimes it's like
Yeah.
overflowing, where it's like, And then sometimes
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, yeah, yeah, it's like, yeah,
It's so funny to me because when I first found this message, there were speakers that I saw who walked around and were constantly going, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh." And I was like, "Are they for real?" It's like I call BS on this shit, you know? It's like even that wow is not sustainable. Like I'm like, let's be real here. Let's get down to brass tacks and be real, you know? What is your real
yeah,
experience like, you know?
yeah. And that
Yeah.
could take years, and that could take years before, like, when you have that opening, um, no one can tell you otherwise. You know, you're just like, it's just the sound of the birds. It's just the leaves blowing. It's just the, you know,
Mhm.
and eventually, and that to me, it's a, it's just what's happening. Obviously, it happens
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
looking in hindsight, it is another, uh, it's another place that it's another stuckness.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and life has its way of smacking you out of that shit.
Oh my gosh, it will kick your ass like
Yeah.
hardcore. Yeah. It will slap you on the face like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen these kids, like, that they post on some of these, where they've just had the opening, they've just had
Mhm.
this, and they can only talk about it as like, um it's just that sound of the bird, it's just the, and
Yeah.
that's cool um because that's where they're at that moment. So it's like,
Yeah.
that's the way it's appearing, that's the way it's happening
Yeah.
there. um
Yeah.
and like I said, we're dream talking the whole way, but it's like, because there's nobody doing anything.
Yeah.
But um I when I see that, I know that as years go by, they won't express it that way. And some of them
Right.
you see even fall away. They take their videos down. Uh,
Yeah.
some of them were
Yeah.
amazing that I've heard back in the day, that just decided, hey, all of a sudden they took all their videos down. You're like, dude, because they see that you're just, that's another limiting, uh yeah, it's another limiting
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful to talk about this in a sense, though, just to say, like, this is it in any which way. There's no right or wrong. There's no way it's supposed to look. It's just the freedom of whatever is appearing to happen. And to me, in a society, like we said, that's so inundated with image and how something should look or be, or follow Eckhart Tolle or Muji or all these people to tell you how to live your life. It's like you're free already to live any which way. It's not confined or constrained to any which way of being. You don't have to be this spiritual guru to be a good person, you
Yeah.
know?
I mean, I remember the silliness of, when I first started, because for, I want to say, for at least a year or even longer, I didn't get on Facebook, and I didn't know who, I didn't talk to anybody about this. It was
Yeah.
just, I would just, like, people that I knew, I would
Yeah.
tell them, there's nothing to worry about. It's all perfect. It's all just happening. But
Yeah, yeah,
but when I did get on groups, I remember when there would be some kind of arguing or something,
yeah,
and they'd be like,
yeah,
well, you just see it this way, or you just, uh, you know, who does that, or who does this, and
yeah,
you just go back
yeah.
and forth. Well, who wants to know? Who wants to know? Um, and
Mhm,
and you would just, it's childish. It's kind of
mhm,
like, yeah. It, and I even remember a specific person that I did that with, and this was
mm.
back maybe in 2014 or
Oh, wow.
15. Yeah, where
Yeah.
we just went back and forth of, who wants to know, who cares, and who's this and who's that. And it was like,
Who's on first?
yeah. But it's just, there's a maturity that happens
Yeah.
in the way we talk about it.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yep.
Beautiful. And on that note, I want to thank you so much. Like,
Yeah.
this is
Thank
such
you.
a joy speaking with you. I
Thank
really,
you.
really appreciate your expression and your
Same.
maturity. Yeah.
Same. I don't
So,
consider myself mature. I mean, I see that, you know, as a baby, I call them babies when you first open up. It's just like a baby, like, oh, you know,
yeah.
and then eventually,
Yeah.
yeah.
Understandably so.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have anything to plug or anything you'd like to say? Any finale here? Any no? Okay. Wonderful then. So appreciate you. I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you so much.
All right. Peace.